Hello everyone, hope you're all doing well, and as you know, in the Garden of Eyes we are trying to overhaul the entire game, whether it's by adding completely new areas and new bosses and new mechanics, or overhauling the existing bosses of the game in a manner that has never been done before. And in today's video we are going to be showcasing our new Elden Morgott. Morgott has a special place in the game, and in overhauling him we wanted to not only preserve but reinforce that particular status. As such, we needed a general direction for the fight that would innovate upon his original concept without taking any of it away. In order to achieve this, we created a second phase that has him come back for what is essentially a second round. But don't sleep on the first phase either, as it has many new additions that only serve to spice up the encounter. First thing we did was attempt to interweave Morgott's attacks with Morgott's in a way that would ostensibly make sense in spite of the difference in weapon choice. To that end, you will frequently notice Morgott attacks interspersed with Morgott's old and new combos. One of the main ones being Morgott's typical side hop into light sword swipe being replaced by Morgott's spinning attack. Other examples include Morgott's stance attacks and the inclusion of a removed Morgott stance attack that he can essentially enter when slightly far away as he's approaching you. On the Morgott end, we have made many tweaks to his animations and combos so as to allow more aggressive up-close play. You might remember how Morgott, after a tail swipe, would perform his spinning attack if you were in front of him and up close, but Morgott had no such follow-up. So we opted to create a guaranteed up-close follow-up to the tail swipe in the form of one of his vanilla vertical spin attacks, only without the initial uppercut that would always come out very quickly. A major point of contention with Morgott's original design was his predilection to jump very far away and disengage, essentially killing momentum. To that end, we greatly tweaked the back hop swipe turnaround attack he has insofar as to cancel it very early and make it have a guaranteed follow-up. This follow-up has two different endings as well, as successfully ending behind him allows Morgott to finish his attack normally and offers players a huge punish window up to 4 power stance straight swords L1s, but staying in front of him will bait out a longer version of the combo that connects into a hammer jump attack that offers about a half punish window from the alternate, not completely neutering passive play nor incentivizing it. In addition, we've decreased the tracking on the initial turnaround back hop swipe and on the follow-up in order to follow some very aggressive strafes that keep the player in the proper position. Also, we've made minor tweaks to the tracking and root motion on pretty much of all of his attacks. For example, the regular horizontal swipe into the back hop now has very low tracking at the start, allowing for easier strafes and blind spotting, but has increased tracking towards the end of the swing to still allow players to redirect Morgott's hop around the arena in order to avoid walls. Another interesting change has been bisecting the long flurry attack that Morgott has, essentially allowing him to combo out of it very early if you are not in range, rather than swing wildly at nothing. But in order to reward people not going away, we've decreased his tracking on the attack and allowed people to much more easily stick to his back during it, essentially blind spotting the entire flurry. Similarly to the back hop swipe from earlier, if you are properly positioned, this combo will always go into a very long recovery attack, as opposed to the regular follow-up if you are in front of him. A dynamic we wanted to emphasize with this fight has been the way the Blood Flame trails Morgott has on his two empowered attacks affect positioning relative to him. And to that end, we compartmentalized the accursed blood phase into a buff he can reapply to himself every so often with a strict cooldown. When he is buffed, all his sword swipes leave a blood flame trail that will explode with a delay, switching up the regular positioning required for Morgott and reinforcing the need to roll in or strafe his attacks as opposed to running away. This buff subphase lasts 30 seconds. While Morgott has one of his empowered attacks when he is not buffed like this, it is not Blood Flame imbued and can only combo into a modified version of his long range follow-up, while the short range one is relegated to his buff subphase. The grab can only happen when the buff is active, however. We've also added a few new animations onto Morgott, 2 triple spin variants that can be strafed easily but cover a long distance, recontextualized Morgott's very rare cross swipes attacks and made them into a regular gap closer that also got a follow-up in the form of a double sword uppercut with his Holy Blade. One last mention for the first phase would be addressing the poise issue that plagues bosses like Morgott. With only 80 poise, Morgott is extremely susceptible to getting stagger-like. However, we thought this added a lot of character to the fight, too important for us to just willy-nilly modify, and such we haven't. Well, for the first phase. Once Morgott depletes his health bar, he will rise up once more. imbued with the grace of gold, now having been granted wings. For this second phase, we've increased his poise and scaled him up a bit, as well as, well, added to him a projection of his estranged brother Mog. This Phantom of Mog shows up during some very specific attacks and is completely scripted relative to Morgott. His main role in the fight is to create zoning for his brother using his blood flame projectiles that linger on the ground, essentially an alternative to Morgott's original blood flame trails that cannot happen in this phase anymore. We've additionally given Morgott one of Mog's flying attacks, as well as some many attacks that utilize the wings, creating a very unique dynamic for the boss, and something that sort of mirrors and contrasts what Mog's fight becomes in his second phase. Also, if you can't hear in the background, we have created a new track for Morgott, which is very amazing, and it's done by Rel, and this boss was of course designed by Mihai in terms of the gameplay, and I think we have done some very interesting changes to Morgott, and this and all of the features of the Garden of Eyes mod are all available in early access right now, which you can get by subscribing to our Patreon in the description, which will support the development of this mod and all of the developers that work on it. So, I hope you all enjoy, make sure to check out the links in the description, and I'll be seeing you later. Bye bye.